welcome to episode 128 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. I'm your host, Devin Ventry. It is a gorgeous Sunday out there. You can find me online at KnittyMcPurly.com. I'm Knitty McPurly on Instagram, and if you want to email me, I am Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. If you are new, I've noticed I've had a lot of new people lately. If you are new, I would love it if you would subscribe and do the little thumbs up. That would be awesome. Isn't this cup cute? It's kind of banal. It's kind of a banal platitude, but I just thought it was pretty, and it's pink on the inside. I'm drinking green tea this morning. I've already had 2 cups of coffee, so I'm kind of like, do I want another cup of coffee? I don't know. I switched to tea. We'll see how that goes. It is gorgeous here today. It's like 40% humidity, which is low for here. And it's gonna be like 70 degrees. Rocky has found a place outside the door. So if you hear growling, he's waiting for me out there. He just lays down outside the door and waits for me to be done with whatever I'm doing. It's really adorable. So yesterday, my husband and I went antiquing. I'm not gonna talk long about this because this is a knitting podcast, but I found this adorable vase. Isn't it just so cute? And I also got a set of 4 of these hobnail amber glass drinking glasses. Aren't they so pretty? They're from the 50s, which means that they are like almost 75 years old. So that's a long time for glass to last. And I feel like if it has lasted that long, it might survive my house. We'll see. The jury's still out. Okay, progress and shop news. Let me begin by saying that when I ran out of DK yarn in April, I still had orders for the April color of the month. So I dyed more of that. So there is a little bit left of April's color of the month. I have it in DK, Dubrovnik DK and Frankfurt Fingering. And in case you forgot, it coordinates with Black Forest Cake and Fantine and Bosc. It's harder to hold them with their labels on. And Trinket. I need bigger hands. Anyway, there's a couple of them left in DK weight and fingering weight. So if you want those, go get them, because once they are gone, they are gone. So don't miss it if you don't want to miss it. Okay, the Gilded Testnet has ended. I am wearing my gilded sweater today. Let me show you this. So this sweater is great. I love it. I love these colors together. I feel like Trinket and Fantine are such good. That's Fantine is the pink and Trinket is the yellow. They're just great pops of color to add to a sweater. So I've got Trinket and Barrel, and then the body of the sweater is knit in frost. So this is a colorwork yoke, and then it's very roomy in the middle, and it has blousey sleeves where there are no decreases, the entire sleeve, and then you decrease all of the decreases right at the cuff, and then that's that. This sweater has been like balm on my soul. It was, first of all, it's great to wear because the yarn is amazing. It's my Athens Alpaca Sport. So here is Poirot on DK, which is a superwash yarn. And here is the exact same dye on Athens Alpaca, which is non-superwash. And that's what this sweater is made of. It's a sport weight. So you can see it dyes up slightly differently, but this yarn is just, it's just really great. Anyway, it's great to wear. It's just comfortable and easy, and I love it. I came home from Mass this morning. I wore something lighter to church this morning because I thought I was gonna get hot, and I did get hot. But then when I came home, I got cold and I put this on and I'm wearing it with shorts. So it's like it's perfect for right now. But the Gilded Testnet, you guys, it was so great. It was like, if a perfect testnet could exist, that was it. My testers were wonderful. Like everyone was so nice and everyone was so generous in sending me pictures, and it's just been so great. And there were no problems. I think, is this the very first time I've ever had a test knit with not a single problem? Maybe. It may have happened before, but it doesn't happen very often. Usually stuff comes out in the test knit. And this time it didn't. And my testers did such a good job. I'm just going to be putting up some of the pictures as I'm talking here, but they chose beautiful colors. They did such a good job knitting, and they just look so, so great. I love them. Thank you so much to my wonderful testers. You guys did amazing. So my original plan was to put this sweater out this past Friday. But because the Faucette along has been so popular, I decided to just not stress myself out and try to do too many things at one time, because I do that. Did you ever know that I do that? I just try to do everything all at one time. And I was like, why don't I just do one thing and then another thing, and then I will lead a less stressful life. Last week, I got all of the DK yarn that you guys had pre-ordered. I got that all dyed and shipped out to you. It is on its way to your house if you ordered some, or maybe you've already received it. That was really great. So I didn't have a chance to dye up the Athens alpaca, which I wanted to have ready for when this pattern came out. So I was like, rather than, you know, try and scramble and just do everything all at one time, I'll put out this pattern next weekend. And that way I can put the pattern out with a discount. I can put the yarn out with a discount. But for now, and I sent this out to my newsletter subscribers, I do have DK in the shop that's available right now, because when I dyed up all the pre-orders, there was some overage, and that's in the shop right now. This week coming up, I plan to do a full shop restock of DK, Dubrovnik DK, and Athens alpaca in preparation for this sweater. So I want to have it in every color. I've talked about this before. So this is 100% baby alpaca, and it comes in a 100-gram skein, and it feels exactly like the Fiber Company Road to China Light. Now, Road to China Light is also mostly baby alpaca. It has like camel and silk and cashmere added in, but it's only a little. It's still mostly baby alpaca. So if you felt them side by side, they feel almost identical. And so I'm gonna be putting this Athens alpaca on sale for 20% off for next weekend when the sweater comes out. And so what that means is, instead of a skein of yarn costing $28, it's gonna cost $22.40. So that's a good deal. And I went and looked, and the Road to China Light for a 50-gram skein costs $20. So 100 grams is going to cost, with the discount, $22.40. So it's almost half the price, and it's just as good. It's not as, you know, it doesn't say that it has cashmere and stuff in it, but it feels exactly the same. Because again, it's mostly baby alpaca. I don't remember what the breakdown is, but when I looked at it, I was like, why does this feel just like Road to China Light when that has all those different fibers? And it's because it's mostly baby alpaca, and this is 100% baby alpaca. So if you want to hear about when the pattern comes out, you want to know about it right away and get all the discount codes, and you want to get the discount on the yarn, go sign up for my newsletter. If you're already signed up, then you already get that. And usually newsletter people get to shop first. But if you want to do that, then go sign up. Okay. Oh, one thing I was thinking about, do you think I should dye the Athens alpaca sport weight in maize color? Because as of now, the color of the month only comes in Dubrovnik DK and Frankfurt fingering, because those are kind of the most ubiquitous weights of yarn that people use. But with the sweater coming, do you think you might want maize color on this base? Let me know. You can send me a message or leave me a comment, and I would love to see that. So I went and checked the pattern to see how many skeins that you would need. I don't have the yardage with me up here right now, but if you are using Knitty McPurly yarn, for almost every size, color A, you only need 1 skein. If you're knitting the 8th size, like the largest size, you do need 2 skeins of color A. Every single size uses 1 skein of color B, which here is the barrel. So I have the Trinket as color A and barrel as color B. For the other sizes, let's see, for up to a 40-inch bust, you need 4 skeins of color C, which is this body color. Here I'm wearing it in frost. 40 to 48-inch bust, you need 5 skeins. Up to a 56-inch bust, you need 6 skeins. And that 8th size uses 7 skeins for that color C, that body color. But most people can do this with 6 or 7 skeins of yarn, because that 6 skeins up to a 40-inch bust, up to 48-inch bust, you only need 1 more at 7 skeins. So that is how that breaks out. So that's exciting. I am super pumped to release this pattern. I don't know how people will respond to it in, you know, late spring, early summer, because it's not, but you know, if you're a slower knitter, you know, you might finish in time for sweater weather in the fall. So that's how I view summer. To me, it's the preseason. Like, summer is the preseason. We do a lot of sweater knitting and stuff in the fall so that we have it ready for when September and October come. But I don't know. I don't know how other people feel about it. It's also nice to have t-shirts and whatnot, so. I did not do much knitting this week. It was a busy week. I dyed a lot of yarn and I had a lot of problems, like Shopify, which is who works my website. The back end of the website is run by Shopify. And they had an issue with automatically fulfilling digital downloads, which is a lot of what I do. So I kept going in and seeing unfulfilled orders that should have been automatically fulfilled. Like, you know, you go to buy a pattern and it automatically sends to you. And it wasn't doing that. It would sometimes, but sometimes it wouldn't. So I was on the phone with them. We were trying to figure that out. And I think that they did, but I'm still having a few people email me saying, it's like it shows them the pattern, but they can't get to it. So just send me an email. I have it linked down below if you don't know how to spell Devin. It's D-E-V-I-N, Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. Just send me an email and I'll just email it to you. If for some reason you buy the pattern and then you're like, where is it? I never got it. It's some problem with Shopify, but they are aware of it and they're working to get that all fixed. So, okay, topic of the week. So I don't even know how I came up with this idea, but I thought, how fun would it be if we did a haiku challenge, a knitting related fibery haiku challenge? If you can remember, try to remember back to 6th grade when you learned about haiku. Haiku is a form of Japanese poetry, which I'm going to go into in more detail in a minute, but it's very simple. And the fun thing about haiku is that you are limited in how many syllables you can use. And as a result, it makes you think very carefully about your word choice. But I thought, how fun would it be to do some nitty haikus? So I will start by talking about the nitty gritty of nitty with a K, the nitty gritty of what a haiku is. Haiku is a short form of poetry originally from Japan. Traditional Japanese haiku consist of 3 phrases composed of 17 phonetic units. Now, when I was reading about this, in English, we tend to do the 3 lines where we've got a 5-syllable line, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. Whereas in Japanese, they tend to do it in 1 line, but it's still 17 phonetic units, meaning syllables. So traditionally, it would include a kuriji. I'm totally gonna butcher all of the Japanese words, so just bear with me. A kuriji, or a cutting word, and a kigo, or a seasonal reference. So this is a traditional Japanese haiku. Quietly, quietly, yellow mountain roses fall, sound of the rapids. Doesn't it just make you feel like you're in Japan and there's the mountains and the fog? It just sounds amazing. And then, you know, there's more detail, like anything. If you're super into it, there's a lot you can know about it and you can do lots of things. But we are going to go with the 6th grade definition of a haiku, which is a 3-line poem, 1 line of 5 syllables, next line 7 syllables, last line 5 syllables. So here is the challenge. I would like, if you want to participate, for you to write a knitting related haiku and leave it in the comments. I am going to pick my favorite, totally subjectively, just whichever one I like the most, and whoever is the winner, I'm going to give you a $50 gift card to my shop. So I hope that is motivating for you to be like, I guess I can come up with 17 syllables about knitting. Now, my mom and my brother are 2 people who I have taught to knit, but they are not knitters. My mom, I think, just learned so that I couldn't accuse her of not learning. Hi, Mom. But she doesn't knit. And my brother, I thought he was more into knitting before I asked him to write a haiku. So anyway, I asked these 2 people to write haiku. I think haiku is plural. I don't want to say haikus because the way it's written here, it says these haiku. Yeah, I think that's plural. So I asked them to write haiku about knitting. And here, this one is from my mom. She says, sticks and yarn twining, weaving comfort webs to wear, clever women knit. Which I think is pretty sexist. Oh my gosh, so rude. There are male knitters, Mom. So now this is the one from my brother. Is this relaxing? I am knotted up once more. It's woolen penance. That cracked me up. I thought that was awesome. So this is the one that I wrote. Brioche is squishy. Cables twisting beautifully. Knitting inspires me. So I think mine is just mediocre. And then my mom wrote another one. She wrote, here's why I don't knit. Because counting gets me down. It's a math problem. So I thought all of those were great. I mean, it's just really fun. It's cool to be limited in syllables, and it's cool to write a poem about knitting. And it just doesn't take very long, and it's fun. So I hope you will join in. Write me a haiku, leave it in the comments. I will choose my favorite one. And the ones that I like the most, I will be putting on next week's podcast. So that will be a lot of fun. Okay, knitting fantasies. So I went looking for some Japanese knitting patterns because I wanted to, I love Japanese knitting. I mean, you know, you can see it and know that it's Japanese. I don't even know how to say why that is. Sometimes it's intricate and sometimes it's simple, but it has a Japanese way about it. I really like it. But for some reason today when I went looking for them, all I found were patterns in Japanese, which is not helpful to most of us because many of us don't speak Japanese. I definitely do not. And then I found a lot of patterns that I've already talked about before. So I got on Ravelry and I just started scrolling and I found this. I cannot get enough of Stephen West's dogs. His dogs are adorable. This sweater, which I somehow missed last time, maybe it's new, I don't know. I think probably that he found out that I was talking about his dog sweaters, and so he was like, I need to design another one. So this is called the Bubble Pup sweater, and it is adorable. It's a Stephen West pattern. It's in DK weight. It's very similar to the ones that I mentioned last week, and his adorable dogs are just so cute. Like, I love them so much. I just want to snuggle them, and they look fabulous in sweaters. And so I just wanted to show you that one. Another pattern, which you are probably familiar with, if you're not familiar with this, then you've been living under a rock, is another pattern by Stephen called the Boneyard Shawl. The Boneyard Shawl is a pattern that he published early in his knitting career, and it has been forever free. It's a very basic triangle shawl, and it really highlights a special 2 to 3 skeins of yarn. It takes 600 yards, and it's a DK weight. So, you know, the one that's knit in plain gray, I think is a little boring, frankly, but the one that's knit in a hand dye, where those different tonalities and variegations come out, in my humble opinion, it is just gorgeous. So if you're looking for a free shawl pattern that has been knit 1,000,000 times, and if you like a triangle shawl, the Boneyard shawl is great. And if you look at the pictures, you'll notice that some of them are smaller than others. I have not knit this shawl. I don't know if he has directions for more than one size, but honestly, you just keep going. You know, you can just make it as big as you want. You can use however much yarn you have if you want to. Okay, the comment section. So this first comment that I want to read to you, and I want to show you the pictures, comes from Stephanie, and she sent me this in an email. She said, I purchased your DK mini skein set, and it took me a minute. I had to really look at the pictures to figure out which DK set it was, but this is last year's advent calendar. And what she did was she bought it as a set because there were a few left at the end, and then she laid them out, and she did like a, I don't know, where she put all the blues together and she put all the pinks together, and it looks amazing. She said, I had promised to send photos of the baby blanket I made with it. This pattern is called Bounce by Tin Can Knits, and this baby's name is Leo Francis. Oh man, and Leo Francis is less than a week old in this picture. Oh my gosh, he is so fresh. He is thriving. He is the 4th child, and so his big siblings are over the moon, fawning all over him. And he has 2 Pope names, Leo Francis. Oh man, I love it so much. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Those pictures are amazing. I absolutely love how the blanket came out. It's just so gorgeous, as is little baby Leo. He is fabulous. Okay, on to the comments. Kelly Olgwin said, finally, someone designs a sock ruler that takes the shoe size into it. I have wondered for years why no one designed it this way. Thank you so much. I agree, Kelly. I think that is genius because then you can just know someone's shoe size and be able to knit them socks. Now, it does make for a larger ruler because some of the sock rulers are very small and, you know, you could tuck them in places. But I think for the functionality, it's great. It would be kind of nice to have one of each, one that's kind of a travel ruler and one that has all the information that you need. Amy Dansizen, that's a cool name, says, I absolutely loved seeing Charlotte's pom-poms at the end of this episode. What a fantastic project for decor in her room. Yes, Charlotte loves to be on the podcast. In case you haven't noticed, she's kind of a diva. So that was kind of a little Easter egg at the end of the last episode, if you watched that far. Lisa Fall said, thank you so much for sharing your faith with us. It's not common in the knitting community. Looking forward to your t-shirt pattern coming out. Last week I showed the Diggory tee. And you know, I responded to Lisa saying, you know, I was in the knitting community before it splintered back in 2019. And I didn't really talk about my faith at all because I kind of felt like it's a business and we don't need to talk about our you know, personal religious beliefs in business. But then when everyone else began loudly proclaiming their religious beliefs, I thought, well, I guess I can. I guess that's what we're doing here. And that has been a huge blessing to me because I wouldn't have done it otherwise. It's interesting how something that kind of is intrinsically a bad thing and feels like a bad thing at the time, over time can become something great and beautiful because that's what God does. He works with, what is it? He writes straight with crooked lines. Okay, let me see. Thank you so much. So many of you said Happy Mother's Day and congrats on Charlotte's first communion. Oh, Eileen, hi Eileen. I had Eileen's mug last week. She said, you totally cracked me up with my shout out. I missed a couple episodes being busy with my daughter's wedding, and I was just thinking about how awesome the Knitty McPurly retreat was and wishing for another. It was really an uplifting and beautiful event. My knitting community has shrunk with the closing of my local yarn shop here in Virginia and one in Maryland. Which one, Eileen? I don't know which one you went to. YouTube is awesome and a huge help, but it can never replace in-person knitting friends and in-person help when one is stuck. Any chance of another retreat? I know it's a lot of work. So yes, I want to have another knitting retreat, and I feel like my silence has been deafening on that point. It is a very big task. Even determining a venue is a big task. At the last retreat, it was in a location that was very tucked away, which was wonderful. And a lot of people were local, but people came from all over the US, and they had to get connecting flights and they had to rent a car. And so I've been thinking about ways to make it more accessible for people and not too expensive, because in the US, the further north you go, the more the prices go up. But I did the last one a little bit south. But I'm kind of totally daunted by going all the way out west, because that's totally outside of my personal comfort zone, just because, you know, how do I get all of my yarn out there? I don't know. So there's a lot of things going on in my mind. I've been so busy with the day-to-day of running the business that I haven't really dedicated any time to planning another retreat, but there definitely will be another one if you're interested, so stay tuned. Yeah, so many good comments. Oh, it makes me so sad when some of you have to stop knitting because of knitting injuries. It's so funny. I've been exercising a lot lately. I told you about my recent commitment to pray and exercise. And I've been doing a lot of, like I talked about a few episodes ago, weight-bearing exercises on my hands, either push-ups or planks or whatever. And that has really strengthened my arms. And when you are strong, you get hurt less. Like I ran yesterday for the first time. I haven't been running. And I was telling my husband that I was able to run further than I normally can because of strength. Like when you build up your strength, your body can just do more. You get hurt less. So by, being strong, go do your wall push-ups or your counter push-ups at whatever level is doable for you. But do 20 of them as you wait for your tea to brew, and you will be protected against knitting injuries. Every time I talk about knitting injuries, my husband's like, I'm like, no, for real. It is real. Okay. So here's what happened. I told you guys last time that Anne-Marie sent me pieces of the newspaper, and they are amazing, and I cannot wait to share those with you. But I got a story that related sort of to Haiku because it took place in Japan, and I thought the synchronicity is so great. I'm gonna go ahead and share this story this week, and I will save Anne-Marie's delightful stories for next week. This one is from Becky, a lovely podcast watcher, who says, my husband and I are retired educators, and this spring we took an exciting trip to Japan. That sounds amazing. My nephew is currently in Japan. Actually, yeah, my brother's going to pick him up soon, but he's there with the Air Force. I would love to go there. It just sounds amazing. Becky says, we explored the country on a bus tour and then were able to spend 2 weeks with family. His 91-year-old mother is a Japanese war bride and one of 11 children. Wow. So he has about 200 relatives living in the Tokyo area. Wow. We thoroughly enjoyed our time together, but also had a blast adventuring around the amazing city of Tokyo. Daily, we rode the trains and subways, and I always took my knitting along for when we got to sit for a bit. One morning on the train, I spotted 2 little girls watching me knit. They were traveling with their grandparents and sitting across from me. The older one, probably about 7 or 8, couldn't take her eyes off me, but was a bit embarrassed when I saw her looking. The seat next to me opened up, so I motioned for her to join me. With a nod of approval from her grandmother, she timidly moved across the train car. I placed my hands closer to her and slowed down my knitting so she could see the individual stitches being made. She was fascinated. I wanted to give her something to remember this moment by, but I didn't have anything of substance. So I started taking my colorful light bulb stitch markers out of my sock project and placing them in her tiny hand one at a time. I motioned that she could share them with her sister. Unfortunately, I only had 6 to give, but I could tell she was pleased. Their stop soon came up and she had to leave. Because of our different languages, the only verbal communication we shared were her timid words of arigato gozaimasu, I'm guessing. But her smile and that of her grandmother made my day. We never know how a little kindness and attention given to a stranger, especially a child, can make a difference in this world. Becky says that her husband took the picture so that she could remember that moment. Isn't that such a great story? Like, it has all the elements of a great story. You know, it's something that was taught. Becky taught a stranger, a little girl, something about knitting, even though they didn't speak any of the same language. Knitting is that way. It brings us together. We don't need to speak the same language to knit together. And that can be true of anything. We don't need to have the same beliefs to knit together. We can all knit together. Come on, knitting community. Let's look at Becky and this beautiful little girl in Tokyo and learn this lesson. Let's all knit together. Can we do it? Come on, people now. Shine on your brother. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you guys. I will see you next week. Have a wonderful week of knitting and sign up for the newsletter if you're interested in the gilded sweater and you want to get that info first. But until then, see you next week. Bye, knitters.